The Atlanta Braves take down the San Diego Padres 7-1 for their first victory over San Diego this season. Let's break it down.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. He's Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. Catch him on social media at shortstopball. Go ahead and subscribe to Locked On Braves audio and on YouTube. And Jake, 7-1 victory by the Braves over the Padres. This is the rare kind of thing where we have a ton of good stuff to talk about. Do we want to talk about the great start by Grant Holmes? Do we want to talk about the offense? And I think I want to start with the offense because in what ended up being an unexpected bullpen game for the Padres after Michael King was scratched with shoulder soreness, every single Brave starter gets a hit, and three of them have multiple hits in this one.
Yeah, this was fun. And again, you get the bullpen game, but sometimes you don't know how those bullpen games are going to go. Sometimes that can be tough for hitters. You're not seeing the same pitcher, every time you go up there. But great at bats throughout, I thought. And this is what I talk about when I say applying pressure each and every inning, consistency throughout the game, having good at bats. You score 1 in the second, 2 in the third, 2 in the sixth, 2 in the seventh. It's just all throughout the game. You do a little bit early, you do a little bit in the middle, you do a little bit late, and that leads to these easy wins so that you don't have to use your best relievers. So absolutely loved what the offense was able to do today, and the Braves needed it.
Yeah, Atlanta does this whole thing. They only get 2 home runs, right? One from Matt Olson coming in the 3rd inning, one from Ronald Acuña Jr. in the 6th. I believe Ronald's on pace for something like 119 home runs this season, so I'm excited about that. Excited for that new MLB record that he's going to take away from or the new Braves record he'll take from Matt Olson. But this is, I think, the biggest, outside of the home runs, the biggest thing to me is Drake Baldwin batting second, going 3 for 4 again. And so many of them were just shooting the ball the other way. And I heard CJ Nitkowski mention this on the broadcast. The Padres weren't they were kind of playing the standard defensive shade that you would do to a lefty and just leaving the left side wide open. I know that you've talked about this before. I think I've written about this before. Having Marcell Ozuna and Drake Baldwin back-to-back up there batting second and third, while you don't get a lot of speed out of it, it feels like Ronald and then those guys, that's a great combination of people who can put the ball in play, who can have really good high quality at bats right behind a guy who's very, very good at getting on base in Ronald Acuña.
Yeah, you just put your best at bats at the top of the order. I think that's the way the game is mostly played today and probably should be. You mentioned the only downside to that is that if they're not extra base hits, it's very station to station. And you're going to have to string some hits together, get a walk in there. Again, if you're not getting the power, which, with those guys, you're generally going to get some power.
Yeah.
Then, so I think you had the double play that was first of all, I thought, okay, maybe that's a hit up the middle, and somehow they turn a double play on it because you got Drake Baldwin running from first and Marcell Ozuna running, and obviously after that, Matt Olson hits a home run. But it's just you're gonna have that. But I do think those are your best at bats. Getting Ronald at the top, that's a no-brainer. It's the leadoff hitter the Braves have been needing so desperately. But putting Drake Baldwin behind him and the quality of bats he has, Ozuna with all the walks he's getting, and then Matt Olson heating up, feels like a really nice top 4. And him slapped in the comment section. I know he's not the only one saying it, but you got to play Drake Baldwin every day. You got to find a way, at least for right now. He has to be in there every day. He is just one of your better hitters right now, and you need all the offense that you can get. So again, I know long-term he's going to be behind the plate. Maybe after this season, you can work it in a little bit more with the DH. I'm assuming their left field's not a possibility, or they would have at least explored it by now, but you got to play them. You got to play them.
Yeah, I mean, it's at this point, it's almost kind of comical whenever you have a lineup and Baldwin's not in there. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I did find it really, I guess, comforting that Ozzie Albies had 2 hits today, because this feels like Ozzie's been in that situation where even when he did things right, and he wasn't often doing things right, but even when he did things right, he wasn't getting the results as far as moving runners over, things like that. None of them were hard hit balls. I think his hardest contact was like 75, 76 miles an hour, but he still got 2 singles out of it. And am I just reading too much into kind of one fluky game, or does it feel like Ozzy's gotten a little bit better in the last week or so versus what we were seeing early in the year?
I think you're trying to be optimistic. I'm not seeing much of anything from Ozzy right now. And look, I'm a believer in him. I think he plays a full season. I think his numbers will ultimately get to where they are, but I'm going to need more than what I saw today. That Ozzy's kind of breaking out of it a little bit, but it's good anytime, as much as he's been struggling, to see a couple hits in the box score. It's got to give you a little bit of confidence going forward, but it's been a struggle for Ozzy. I know it has been for Michael Harris too. I actually feel better about Michael Harris right now than I do Ozzy, but good day for Ozzy to, like I said, at least get a couple of hits in the box score. Hopefully that will get him going, because when he gets going, I say it all the time, I mean, he's always been very streaky, and when he does get in a groove, I mean, he can absolutely go off, but we just hadn't really seen that this year so far.
Yeah. Michael Harris has a 104.7 mile an hour single. The thing about Michael Harris is, even when he's not getting the hits, provided he's not chasing kind of crazy out of the zone, right? When he's actually putting the ball in play, he's consistently hitting the ball hard. They're not always falling, but he's at least hitting the ball hard. Ozzy's not really bringing that aspect of the game. And so that is, I think, a big difference between those two. Another thing, talking about the box score, that I noticed as the game was progressing, I didn't look at the numbers until now, kind of on purpose. I wanted to get I wanted to kind of just do it live in the show. But Atlanta went 5 for 12 with runners in scoring position. And I think it kind of goes back to your point. The at-bats were really good in this game. Yes, it was a bullpen game, but they consistently it felt like they were not necessarily always looking to hit the home run. They were okay with the idea of going station to station, of getting the ball in play, and it paid off for them today.
Yeah, again, I feel like there has been an approach change this year to do that, to be less aggressive and to be more contact oriented. And it feels like at times they just kind of get caught in between. But overall, I mean, I think that is going to help. And I think you have some more bats in the lineup that can do that for you, whether it is, Drake Baldwin and Alex Verdugo, Nick Allen, those guys are going to be more contact oriented. And so I think it does give you a little bit different approach in the lineup. And I think ultimately that's going to help this offense be better. The at bat that I look to is I believe it was the first inning. You had 2 on and Austin Riley up, and he got his big swings in. He got to 2 strikes, and I said, okay, I want to see him bear down right here and look opposite field. And what did he do? He lined one to right field, but it just happened to be right at Tatis. And I loved that. I love that approach, and I love that swing. And it tells me, okay, there is a mindset there with these hitters. I'm in 2 strikes. I got runners in scoring position. Let me cut down a little bit and just look the other way. And he did that. Again, just unfortunate result there. But I love seeing that approach from these hitters.
Yeah, it's the first 2 strikes of the at-bat are mine. After that, this is now the team's at-bat. And I have my responsibility.
With runners in scoring position like that,
Yeah. Put the ball into play, make something happen. And like you said, he hit it to a Gold Glover out there in right field, and it just didn't quite work out this time. In just a second, I want to talk about Grant Holmes, because I don't think we quite appreciate exactly how good he's been. We'll do that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game, but both before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So Grant Holmes in this one gives you, I would argue, one of the better starts that he's made this year. 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 1 walk to 6 strikeouts. Comes out of the game less than 100 pitches, 94 pitches, 65 strikes, and only gives up 6 hard hit balls. None of them are barrels. Just does a really good job of kind of, the slider, 4-seamer are still the main things for him there, right? But mixes in the curveball really well, uses the cutter, even throws a changeup, right? They made a big deal in spring about the kick change. He even throws one of those, but it just, I don't quite think we appreciate how consistent he's been. He's gone 6 or more innings with 2 runs or less in 4 of his last 5 starts. And today was just a continuation of that excellence from Grant Holmes.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I mean, there was a lot of hype, I think, early in spring training when the Braves didn't go get somebody. We said, okay, they're putting a lot of eggs in the basket of Grant Holmes being an actual starter. And it was a little shaky early on, mainly just with the control. He wasn't giving up a ton of runs early, but he just wasn't going deep into ball games. And a lot of that was just the control. And that still has plagued him at times, even over this good stretch. With just 1 walk today, and he is able to go, 7 innings. So you see that when he does have the good command. You mentioned not a lot of hard hit balls. And what I love too is that 84.8 mile per hour average X velocity against, just a ton of weak contact. And Grant Holmes, again, he's been fantastic. I think, just me, as the pessimistic side of me, is how many innings can you get out of him this year? I mean, how much can you really expect from him? But certainly he's proven, just like Ronaldo did last year, that he can make that adjustment to the starting rotation. And going back for that 7th inning, this is something we have talked about in these games that the Braves have blown recently, where you had, a 3 or 4 run lead, I think it was at the time, and Snitker decided to take out the starter who was in a groove, pitch count was in a good spot, and he decided to go to Aaron Bummer, go to De Los Santos, an inning I thought too early. And this one, he doesn't. He puts Grant Holmes back out there for the 7th inning, and then the Braves kind of blow it open, and then you can bring in De Los Santos, who's been good lately, and go to Scott Blewett and those guys. So maybe that's a change in Snitker, and just letting your starter ride a little bit longer instead of going into that bullpen maybe earlier than you need to.
Yeah. And a note on the Grant Holmes workload thing. I remember kind of looking at this probably 2 weeks ago for a newsletter on Braves Today. The reliever converting to starting is typically around 130 innings effective that first year that they're a starter. Grant Holmes might be able to give you a little bit more than that. Between Gwinnett and Atlanta, he did make 10 starts last year, so he's kind of in that hybrid thing. He threw 109 in the 3rd innings. And so my hope is that rather than going from 70 innings to 130 or so, like a reliever to a starter would do, maybe the 100 and, the essentially 110 innings could maybe bridge you into 150, 160, and that he's hopefully able to continue this for most of the year. I do think you probably need to find a way to give him a break here and there. Maybe you skip a start in the middle of summer, things like that. But I do feel better about him handling the workload than what happened with Ronaldo Lopez last year, where he had to go in the IL twice because he was coming from a pure single inning relief role into a full-time starter.
Yeah, if I can get 150 innings out of Grant Holmes this year, I'd take that all day.
Yeah. So De Los Santos, Scott Blewett come in. Together walk 3 with no strikeouts, but they handled this perfectly fine. And I do think that Atlanta caught a little bit of a break here with not having to face Michael King, not simply because they can't handle King. They handled King fine in the season opener, but something where the Padres kind of had to go into a bullpen game where they weren't quite necessarily prepared. I haven't seen an official announcement yet as to whether or not King is going to start tomorrow or if it'll still be Dylan Cease. But either way, you have to feel like we talked last night about how losing game 1 hurt because now you had to go out and beat both King and Cease. You handled game 1, Dylan Cease versus pitcher Swellenbach. Given what the offense did today, do you feel a little bit better about Atlanta's chances of winning the series on Sunday with pitcher Swellenbach on the mound?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you come off a game like that, you got to feel a little bit better. And Acuña hitting, a home run a game, that certainly feels great and a good pace there. So, yeah, I mean, certainly a lot better than I did after Friday night's game, where I thought we were going to be facing King and then Cease, and the offense looking as putrid as it did on Friday night. But I definitely feel a lot better now because you do have Schwellenbach on the mound too, and I think he can go toe to toe with a Dylan Cease. So, yeah, I feel a little bit better now about possibly getting a series win, but definitely a big break for the Braves today, not having to face Michael King. And hopefully that does kind of get the offense going. Because the at-bats, I mean, look, I know it was a bullpen game. Padres weren't ready for it, but the bats in general just looked much better than they did on Friday night. And maybe they're going to against when you're not facing the Michael Kings and Dylan Ceases and Nick Pavettas of the world. But hopefully they can continue that momentum into Sunday's game and win this series.
Absolutely. So, okay. Again, Braves beat the Padres 7-1 on 13 hits, 7 runs. Grant Holmes had a fantastic start. Tomorrow's series finale, as of now, as we understand, still Dylan Cease versus pitcher Swellenbach, 4:10 p.m. The Braves like to do that afternoon game on Memorial Day weekend versus doing the standard 135 game or whatever it is. But we'll be back tomorrow with another postcast after that. So do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live to break down more Ronald Acuña Jr. home runs, more fantastic starts from these Braves starting pitchers, and another Braves victory. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.